I say this a lot, I hope not too much, but these are the most wonderful questions for their quantity and quality. But the first one is a little troubling, and I'll read it very quickly here. I don't know who wrote that. I thought we were friends. On a night when the musicians are wearing such colorfully appealing ties, why is Rich without one? Did he arrive, see theirs, and remove his? I appreciate that.
I think John's got the second one back there.
Yes. Well, I'll get one after. This is the first time in 16 years that I haven't worn a tie. Enough of that. Okay, for York and Karen, this must be in the program notes or bio here. Do you still have a Lurtendale house? The one with the magical attic. Do you know something about this?
I know something about my house. We live in Peekskill, which is about 45 minutes north of Manhattan on the Hudson River. And we have a gingerbread Victorian house, which is painted lavender with all kinds of beautiful accent colors of purple and dark pink. Remember? And we have a magical attic with cathedral ceilings and 15-foot ceilings. And that's where we rehearse. And we also give some little house concerts there, too.
We do jokingly call it Rebel headquarters.
Here is a sort of semi-technical question that you might want to answer. Do you tune to the just tempered or even tempered scales?
Neither. They are.
I just try to play in tune.
Oh, that's a quote. This is an interesting subject because this is one of the few places in this group where I have total control. They're stuck with what I do. The use of equal temperament, which is the way your piano is tuned, is fairly modern. Even in the beginning of the 20th century, when piano tuners said that they tuned equal temperament, they didn't. That is, they didn't do it if you were to measure it with a computer program now. It's really only since the invention of electronic tuners that they've been really able to achieve true equal temperament on a very, very exact basis. And for the most part, equal temperament is something that was certainly known as a concept in the Baroque time, but it's not something that anyone thought was necessarily a good thing. Because the idea of being able to play in every key, until Bach wrote this well-tempered clavier, we didn't really necessarily write in every key. And by the way, when we say well-tempered clavier, that doesn't mean Bach was advocating the use of equal temperament. He probably, like 99.9% was not. He was advocating something we call well-tempered tuning, or and the idea is that keys, especially for the Germans, I don't know, the Germans always have these weird imaginations.
I can only repeat what Richard said. I thought we were friends.
The different keys have different characters. So, for example, much military music is in D major, because that's the keys the trumpets normally play in. So they thought D major was a martial key. B minor was considered melancholy. Now you can see lots of lists of these by different writers, and they don't always agree on what the affects of the different keys are, but there's some general principles here. And the idea with the tunings is that there are good keys and bad keys, and some things are supposed to sound good and some things are supposed to sound bad. And the idea is that, when you're playing in C major, it sounds very beautiful and consonant, and if you're playing in E major, well, maybe it's a little more stressed out. I don't know, there are reasons, good musical reasons. And if you were to analyze even something like, Bach's St. Matthew Passion or St. John Passion, the way he uses keys is very expressive. So, and you actually lose that completely with equal temperament. So, we tune, in general, for these kinds of concerts where we do lots and lots of music, different kinds of music, I do a tuning that I call a French fifth comma mean tone. And it does allow me to play on almost every key, but sharps are low and flats are high. That doesn't make logical sense to you probably, but it is in fact what it is. Sharps are not high, they're low. Leading tones are low, not high. It's all very, very weird. The other tuning we might do is, if we were only doing 17th century music, we would do something called mean tone, which is really extreme, where you have pure thirds in the good keys, horrible thirds in keys you never play in. The fifths are pretty bad, but they like the purity of the thirds.
I have one more question for you. Obviously, this beautiful harpsichord that you heard earlier, that York mentioned, that Dunstan made himself. He said he started it, we were talking backstage, in '86, and he just finished it this year, basically. Yeah. But a lot of people want to know what it says on the inside.
The mottos that are taken from, there are many, many mottos that are on old harpsichords, usually Flemish harpsichords. And in fact now in this wonderful modern day and age, I can go to a website and find a page which lists almost, like 50 different mottos in English translations. Plus some new ones which you might want to put on your harpsichord, like, don't blame the harpsichord, blame the harpsichordist. This one on the left, and these are taken verbatim from Flemish harpsichords, and so the Latin, although perhaps a little funky to some people, is considered correct. Either that or they've got 17th century Flemish typos. This says, while living I was silent, now dead I sweetly sing. And it's referring to the tree that when it's alive, it don't make any noise. And in fact, the wonderful thing about French harpsichords is if you were to look on almost any French harpsichord from the 18th century, it'll say this message in a picture on the soundboard. You'll have a picture of a tree stump, and on that tree stump will be usually one branch of living leaves, and on that branch will be a singing bird. It's a nice thought. The other one says, if these be the joys of this world, what be the joys of heaven? I just like that choice.
Do you feel left out, Jen?
A little bit, yeah.
We have a wonderful question. Someone wants to know if it hurts your legs to play like that.
Only a little bit, but no, it doesn't actually hurt at all. The cello is resting very lightly on my calves. I'm not squeezing it, so just gravity holds it there, and I don't need to work very hard to do it.
And your instrument is about the same age as theirs?
Almost. It's 40 or 50 years newer.
In the 1600s? 1700. Now there is a question, and I'll let you, since we're over here, do the strings break very often? And this would apply to them as well, I suppose.
It's different for them. Their strings can break very often, but they're really good about changing them before they break normally. But I think they need to change their thinnest strings all the time, like every couple of days when we're rehearsing or doing concerts. My strings, because they're a lot thicker, last a long time. So my top two strings last for about 6 to 12 months, and the bottom two last for about 3 years.
And are they all gut, yours?
Yes.
All gut. Now, one last question before, because you've been so good about this, and there were an awful lot of questions about the harpsichord. I hope the rest of you don't feel very, you can take it out on him later on.
You could come in after the concert and ask me personally.
Yes.
I'll be happy to answer any question.
A couple people, I suppose. Someone wanted to know if you play anything other than Baroque music. Yeah, it says, would you as a group perform music besides the Baroque when you're not playing?
Absolutely. We have done quite a fair amount of classical music. Well, first of all, Rococo music, which is the transition from Baroque to classical music. I'm talking about the Bach sons and Stamitz and that kind of stuff. And then classical music, of course, we have done actually as a group, as well as an orchestra. There is the Rebel Baroque Orchestra, which we sometimes have when we do larger formation music, and we have done the complete Haydn masses, which we actually have recorded. They're available on Naxos with the Trinity Choir, Trinity Wall Street in Manhattan, New York City, that is, with the Rebel Baroque Orchestra. We have done Mozart Requiem, we have done Cherubini Requiem, we have done Michael Haydn Requiem, Stabat Mater, and many more pieces. These are mostly things that we have done with the Trinity Choir, so they're with a small choir, about 25-piece choir, and the orchestra is about the same size, 25 to 30-piece band. In the smaller formation, we have done, in the Mozart year, of course, we had done some of the Mozart piano quartets, we have done some of the string trios, which are arrangements, preludes by Mozart and arrangements of Bach, fugues, J.S. Bach, that is. So there's quite a fair amount. We do specialize and have our focus on Baroque music, which is, as you can tell, quite a broad band from it's about 200 years, 160 years of music. So that's doesn't get boring very easily, I would say.
Actually, we have done a piece of contemporary music. Our frequent collaborator, a wonderful recorder player named Matthias Mauter, who's a composer, wrote a double concerto for us, which we performed and recorded, actually. It's on the disc. Oh, we don't have it here. But it's in the style of Sammartini, which is a Baroque composer. And what? And the formation is recorder, traverso, 2 violins, and basso continuo. So we have done a little piece of contemporary music, but it was in the style of Baroque, so maybe that doesn't count.
Well, you've been very gracious, all of you. Thank them very much, please. One of the best Q&As we've had, so thank you again. And they're going to tune up a little bit and then on to the second half. Thank you very much, too.